Welcome, educators. Let's jump right into this explainer. If you've ever felt like your classroom has way more kinetic energy than a literal power plant, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're diving into a totally practical, zero-cost toolkit. We're going to transform those primary classrooms from frustratingly passive environments into wonderfully dynamic hubs of learning. It's all about actionable steps you can literally start using tomorrow.
So, let me ask you, is your primary classroom passive or active? We all know the reality here. Young kids are naturally curious, beautifully hyperactive, and just bursting with energy. The traditional lecture method, it simply doesn't work for them. It leaves the room feeling stagnant and honestly leaves everyone frustrated. But you know what? It really doesn't have to be that way.
Okay, let's dive into this 5-part toolkit that's going to completely shift your classroom dynamic. We'll be covering 1. Transforming traditional teaching styles. 2. Using games and activities. 3. Utilizing local and low-cost materials. 4. Encouraging student leadership. And finally, 5. The power of positive reinforcement.
Section 1, Transforming Traditional Teaching Styles by Rethinking Classroom Space. You know, the actual physical layout of your room dictates the whole flow of learning before you even speak a single word. Just picture the old traditional setup for a second. Rigid rows of benches. The kids in the back just tune out and become completely passive, right? But if we simply shift those exact same benches into a U shape or a circle, the entire dynamic transforms instantly. Suddenly, everyone is visible to you, and more importantly, they are visible to each other.
The simple layout change is absolutely fantastic for encouraging group work. And in the Nepali educational context this toolkit was designed for, it's incredibly effective at passively teaching kids the habit of turn-taking. When kids are sitting in a circle, they naturally learn the patience of waiting for their turn to speak or participate. It's basically a foundational social skill built right into the room's geometry. Section 2. Using games and activities to gamify the textbook.
Kids learn fastest through play. So instead of fighting all that natural energy, we're going to channel it by turning dry textbook lessons into fast-paced games. Let's walk through an incredibly easy, zero-cost game you can play today. It's called Hot Potato, or locally, Tato Alu. Here's how it works. First, pass a ball or a handkerchief around the circle while music plays or the class claps. Then, stop the music suddenly. Whoever is holding the item has to answer a question or define a word. It creates this immense suspense, and suddenly, answering standard textbook questions becomes thrilling. And this brilliantly illustrates another fantastic zero-cost option, the word chain, or Shabdako Dori. It's super simple. The last letter of a word spoken by one student literally becomes the starting letter for the next student's word. This is a perfect game for teaching Nepali or English vocabulary. It requires absolutely zero prep time, and it forces students to actively, eagerly listen to their peers. Section 3, Local and Low-Cost Materials. Utilizing the environment. I want to reassure you that effective teaching materials absolutely do not require an expensive budget or fancy tech. The best tools, they are right outside your school door. If you need to teach math, counting, or addition, just grab some stones, sticks, and small pieces of wood. Teaching science or environmental studies, have the students gather leaves, flowers, and soil right from the school grounds. You aren't just saving the school money, you're directly connecting students to their immediate surroundings and making abstract concepts physically real. Next up is an incredible technique called total physical response, which really just means teaching with actions, rhythm, and movement. Primary school kids absolutely love to move their bodies, and if you force them to just sit and listen, you're going to lose them. So integrate actions. When teaching opposites, have them physically put hands up and hands down. If you're teaching math tables, sing it with a rhythm or clap it out. Keep them highly engaged by making the learning physical. This kind of physical engagement builds beautifully into what's known as a gallery walk or museum walk. Small groups create charts, paste them on the classroom walls, and then actually walk around to view and clap for their peers' work. It's a fantastic way to structure out-of-seat time. It empowers the kids as creators of their own exhibit, and they learn to truly appreciate and validate each other's efforts. Section 4, Student Leadership in the Classroom, Empowering Young Learners. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how we can make the classroom truly student-centered through delegation. We can easily create a cabinet of rotating classroom ministers. You could delegate a class monitor who oversees discipline, a cleanliness minister who manages wiping the board and sorting the trash, and a book minister who handles distributing and collecting notebooks.
Handing out these specific, vital jobs completely takes the administrative burden off your own shoulders while genuinely empowering the kids. The impact of this is profound. This practice develops early leadership skills and gives children concrete ownership of their space. Especially within the local context, giving young children these responsibilities builds their confidence from a very early age. Think about it. When a child knows they're the book minister for the week, it drastically boosts their excitement to show up to school every single morning.
And finally, Section 5, Positive Reinforcement, the Power of Teacher Attitude.
This is perhaps the most crucial and completely intangible tool in our kit, the language and tone you choose to use every single day, using simple, powerful phrases like hajur, a respectful yes, or shabash, well done. You did so well. Let's try again. I really cannot overemphasize the profound emotional resonance of using these words of positive reinforcement. Replacing harsh punishment with a gentle let's try again completely alters the psychological landscape of your classroom. It creates a genuinely safe space where children are entirely unafraid to speak up, make mistakes, and actually learn.
Which brings us to a direct, provocative question for you. Which change will you bring to your classroom tomorrow? You now have a complete, zero-cost transformation toolkit. You could rearrange your benches into a U-shape, play a quick game of hot potato, grab some leaves for a science lesson, assign a classroom minister, or simply choose to say shabas instead of scolding. The power to transform your classroom from passive to brilliantly dynamic is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to start your zero-cost transformation immediately.